Good morning. This is JC, St. Louis's oldest living hippie, and it is Saturday morning, the day after the unhappy 4th of July. I walked out, looked at a few fireworks from my front yard, and I said, "The hell with this," walked back in. And so I did nothing. I didn't want to see celebrations. I drove around and I saw people having big parties with party tents up, etc. yesterday, and I thought, how could they be celebrating the 4th of July knowing what's happening in our country? Well, then I remembered I live in a red state and I live in a red county in that red state right now, and that's sort of woke me up to how these people who had Trump signs in their yards could be having parties on the 4th of July. Well, the thing that I'm about to bring you is an article on how U.S. soldiers feel about being deployed in the streets against U.S. Civilians, and what might happen if they don't do it, or what might happen if they do it. So I'd like you to listen to this article.
U.S. soldiers demand protection from following Trump's far-right authoritarian government. Published by Alternet. The New Republic reports members of the U.S. military are spending July 4th demanding answers about the consequences of following the orders of Trump's far-right authoritarian government. Air Force mechanic Kim, speaking anonymously to TNR, said she enlisted in the military to get a stable paycheck, a roof over my head, food in my stomach at the end of the day. But now she worries about the increasing prospect of being issued unlawful orders, fearing President Donald Trump is willing to use the military against American civilians. "And now we have military in our streets, and that's not where you're supposed to see them," said Kim. George Washington University law professor Laura Dickinson says more and more military members are worried about being caught in the middle of either being court-martialed for refusing to follow illegal orders or getting prosecuted for executing them. The United States federal government has been very cautious about using the federal military domestically for law enforcement purposes, said Dickinson, or Trump's decision to send federal troops to the streets of LA. It's norm-busting and very concerning to people in the military. Another fear is that Trump might invoke the Insurrection Act to quash protests, despite the act being designed to deploy the military against insurrection, not protesters shielded by the Constitution. "The Marines aren't trained in policing," said Brittany Ramos de Barros, an Afghanistan veteran and organizing director of About Face, which opposes military weapons and tactics being deployed against U.S. civilians. "People in the military understand that there's probably no less equipped branch of the federal government to do de-escalation work than the Marines, who de Barros describes as trained for warfare, with rules of engagement that are very different from those of law enforcement. Even worse, people who served in Trump's last administration admit the president has deliberated shooting civilians before at the height of Black Lives Matter protests. Can't you just shoot them in the legs or something?" asked Trump, who received exemptions to avoid serving in Vietnam thanks to his wealthy father, according to the New York Times. The About Face Veterans Group is spending the July 4th holiday launching its Right to Refuse campaign, arguing that American service members deserve the power to refuse unlawful or immoral orders, particularly those issued against other Americans. The group also seeks to pressure Congress to pass a law providing protection to service members who refuse unlawful commands. "I may not have joined the military out of the most patriotic of reasons, but I still raised my right hand and swore an oath to the Constitution to defend it from all enemies, foreign and domestic," said Kim. But the American people are not the Constitution's domestic enemies.
Well, there you go. The military is finally waking up and realizing the predicament that they are in. And they are in a predicament where they could be court-martialed if they refuse. They could also be prosecuted, maybe not now under Trump, but at a later time under a different president with different Congress. They might be brought up on charges, not military charges, but civilian charges for, well, maybe even a military court-martial for going out in the streets and policing the streets when the military is under the rule of posse comitatus, which says the U.S. military may not be used against U.S. citizens. Well, this is long enough, so just keep that in mind. This is JC, St. Louis's oldest living hippie, saying, fuck Donald Trump, and saying to you, pox some more, Jack, and keep on trucking.